In this video, I cover a hassle-free way of deploying a TypeScript function from an Nx repo to AWS Lambda. Now, as of this recording, I found a lot of different libraries and options and plugins available to do the same thing, but I ran into issues with most of them. So this is a hassle-free way that I figured out and I'm sharing it with you. So first things first, if you don't have an Nx repo, you obviously would want to create one with this command. So here I'm creating an Nx repo with the name learn with a preset of TypeScript. I'm saying no for cloud, Nx Cloud right now, and it's installing all my dependencies. After successfully creating that repo, we can go into that repo. And just open it in Visual Studio Code. We'll see a directory structure like this where there's a packages folder. So any new libraries or applications that I create will be in here. The first thing we'll do is to create a node application. The idea is that node application is something I'll use specifically for deploying to Lambda. There will be other libraries that will stay in the same repo, and those libraries can be referenced by this application. So another way, our code is abstracted away very nicely. It can be consumed as a Lambda function, but in future, if I want to use it in a different way, as part of a different endpoint, it can still be done. To create a node application, we'll add this node plugin. Once the plugin is added, we can go and create an application using this nxg command. If Nx is not installed globally, we can also use the npx nxg command. So I'm creating a new app called Lambda Echo Query Params. We'll see later what the library that I've chosen to do that function is just gonna mirror whatever query params I send to the Lambda request. So this is the application that will deploy it. Once the application is created, we can build it with nx build command, and then we can run it with npx nx serve command, and we'll get this output of hello. So that's our default shell application. To make things simple, I'm not going to create a library, but put my code in this application itself, and it will be a very simple function that actually takes in as input the request, the HTTP request, and gives as output the query params of that request. So let's create that file that will have the code for reading the query params. This is the main file. It doesn't really do much. We'll leave it as is and create a new file called Lambda. And in that we'll have this code over here. It does use AWS Lambda, so we need to install this. Let's do a very quick run through of what this code does. This Lambda handler is the main entry point for the function. The event.query string parameters that gives us all the params that we need. And we convert it using JSON.stringify, and we return a status code of 200, and in the body we say queries, and that JSON data as a string. So that's all we'll do from a code point of view. Now we have to do the additional stuff that is needed to deploy to AWS Lambda. So if you don't have an AWS account yet, this is a link that I'll attach to the video on how you can create one. You can sign up for the free trial if you want to. you would want to create an IAM role after you create that root user with your email, an IAM user for your serverless deployment. And once you create an IAM user, you would use that access key. In that, you can configure your local box to have that key and that secret provided. So you can copy them over, and if you don't have serverless installed locally, you can just, I think that was the first command here for this guide over here. So just install npm install global serverless, and there are more than one ways to set up that credentials. Ultimately, those credentials will make it to this file over here in your on your box. So you have to you can use serverless, or you can use AWS configure command to set them up. So that would be the first step. You create a user on AWS, that would be the root user. Then you go in and create an IAM user, give it the roles, specific roles to be able to deploy, which is covered over here. You have to give it programmatic access. So and then now from here on we can deploy using that access key ID and secret. To deploy to serverless, you will need a serverless YAML file, and that's what I've created here at the root. I'll go over what the parameters are put in. You might want to read through the complete documentation. I'll put that as a link as well on what are the different YAML parameters. You can there's a lot in there, but for our specific case, we only need a few parameters. So it starts with naming a service. And then provider is obviously AWS. Runtime for Node, as of this recording, April 2022, we have Node 16 available, but it's not available yet on Lambda. So I'm using Node.js 14 stage. I'm using prod. This is for just testing this simple function only. Otherwise, you can use dev, stage, and all that. And I'm using a region specific to me. Where I'm at, but you could change it to other regions. The next step is the packages. So what needs to be deployed, and here is where I found a good hack, or maybe an easy way to get things done, because we are writing a TypeScript, and there is a serverless TypeScript plugin available. There are multiple options to ways to try to deploy that TypeScript app with source map and all that, and I was always running into some issues, especially with all the different types of libraries and their build systems, how they are being exported. So I thought it would be just easy, since we are just gonna write a JavaScript, execute a JavaScript code, we could just deploy the output of our the entire code. Right now it's just that lambda.ts code. When we build it with Nx, we saw that before, that build is in the dist folder. So that's really what I'm trying to deploy here. Inside that there's a packages, and within that the name of the app that I built, not here, this one. And within that the main.js is really the file which has all the code. And we'll make a small change for the Lambda code to be here, but yeah, this is the file we'll want to deploy, and so that's what I specify in the patterns. What goes in there is just one single file which has everything I need, just plain JavaScript, so don't have to worry about TypeScript issues, because it's only when I'm coding that's when I really need the types and everything. When it's running, I'm just deploying the JS. And functions, now you could have in a serverless file multiple functions defined, but here it's just one function, and the entry point for that is in that main file, so I give the full path and then the name of the module. So Lambda is exporting this default, lambda.ts is exporting this default module called Lambda handler. And so that's what we are going to use here. So that's the entry point that we specify. Events is really how this function can be accessed or run. Right now we are going to run it only through a web request. There's so many different options. You can even schedule it and all that. So for I chose the newer API here, which is the HTTP API, and for a method get, I also give a simple path of /get. So essentially, whatever the default URL it is deployed to on that, if we do a /get, then we'll get our results. So that's the complete quick walkthrough of what this serverless file is doing. I did introduce a little bit of complexity there by ignoring the main.ts file and creating a new file called lambda.ts. To just account for that, in this project configuration for Nx, I'm just changing this source to be lambda.ts instead of main.ts. So this will be completely ignored, and this is what what will be built. So let's see the result of what this does. So when I build this now, and after that build succeeds, then we can go back and check that main.js file. Here you see that that lambda handler is what is built now, and we're gonna use that as the entry point. So we are ready with built code now to deploy. Also, one quick step, one additional thing that would be very useful when we do the deployment is to create an account in app.serverless.com. You can create an account and have an org there. So if you deploy and in your deployment parameters you specify that org as well. These are some example apps to deploy. If you do, for creating a new app, you just give that flag name of your organization, then what will happen is that in your deployment, in your deployed app, what you want to, all the analytics and all that you want to check on, you can do it obviously from your AWS Lambda console, but you can also have a better analytics up here in serverless. So that's an additional step I did, created an account here, and now we are ready to deploy. From the root of the folder, we use the serverless command, and we use the deploy command, and we have to give the org because I want this to be sent to that app.serverless.com as well. And then in config, I'm giving the config name, which is this lambda echo query params. So let's see what happens. I don't have serverless installed, so I'll go ahead and do that. And trying it again after installing serverless for that version of Node. So once you run the command, it takes a little bit of time to create the CloudFormation stack and everything. We don't have to worry about how that infra is created. That's the whole point of serverless. But once it's all deployed, you will get the endpoint at which it is deployed. So we can hit that, and once we hit that with any set of query parameters, we can see that we are getting an echo of all the queries, query parameters that we are sending to this endpoint. So that's a success. This Lambda function is now available at an HTTP endpoint. We can also check our apps now. Hopefully it starts to show up here. Maybe it takes a minute, but we can at least go to the source of truth, which is our Lambda function within our AWS console, and we can see that being deployed here with running with runtime of Node.js 14. When I click on that, I can click on monitor to see what's going on. I've also found that this logs which are also set to run with CloudWatch. It has helped me debug problems. So that's an easy way without any setup to also have log monitoring for it. These are the logs output. If there are any errors, you should hope to find them here as well. And other important things, you could possibly test it from your test tab over here as well, and you can even look at a code. There's not a whole lot we can see here because I decided to send that minimize code here, and it's actually saying that it's too large for it to display here. No big deal. When I look at the code, I can look at it in my repo, but this is running fine, and that's great. As far as the part about seeing it in serverless.com, probably missed something there. I did put an org as Vishal front glue, but I still don't see my apps here, so maybe the keys or something is not working correctly anymore. But just wanted to add this also as an additional option. But yeah, as a whole, we have an HTTP endpoint for our function, our Lambda function, and what's very exciting right now, which made me look again at serverless, is this announcement about it being very easy to also provide an HTTPS endpoint for your Lambda function. So this was released this month, April 2022. And this blog, I'll put a link to this as well, discovers how we can easily make it available over HTTPS as well. So very exciting, and we can make the best use of using Lambda functions, deploying our code from our Nx repo to Lambda.